People had always feared me. They said I saw visions. That death followed my words. There were whispers that I killed my parents and my grandmother. Then one night, I lost all my friends to greed, to darkness. Only my sister survived. And even that came with a price. By morning, villagers gather. Families wail. Bodies lie covered with cloth. Only Agnes kneels, sad, stressed, her eyes swollen from crying. Beside her sits Elena, motionless, blind, silent. Whispers rise through the crowd. Why are they the only ones who survived? Bonmi's mother screams, "Witch! She's a seer. She killed them all, I know it." Chioma's father grabbed the collar of Agnes' dress, pulling her close.
You brought your cursed shadow upon them all, Agnes. One by one they fell, and now they are gone. Even your own sister was not spared. Look at her, helpless, blind, unable to move. Tell me, what kind of evil follows a child like this? You are the storm that destroyed them.
A week later, a well-dressed woman stepped out of a car. This was Auntie Deo's mother. She found me outside, packing clothes from the line. She looked at me and asked, "Where is my daughter?" I bowed my head. My voice broke. She didn't make it. She screamed, "You killed her." I entrusted my daughter to this home, to your grandmother, my own mother, and look at what became of her. Look at what happened. She points at Agnes, stepping closer, trembling with rage. Your cursed shadow was not satisfied with taking your parents, not even my mother was enough. Her voice cracks, turning into a cry. Now my Deo, you will see hell for this. Agnes, do you hear me? You will see hell. And she meant every word she said. She sold our grandmother's house, the land, the farm. We had nothing left. Nothing. I begged her. I pleaded. I begged her not to sell grandma's house. It was the only thing we had. But she just smiled, an evil, cruel smile. She didn't listen. She took us to her house and told us the shed was where we would stay. I tried to make her see.
Please see her condition. This is where you will stay, not my house.
In the shed, I held Elena close, wiped her face with a towel, sang softly, trying to bring a little light into all this darkness. Then Auntie appeared, holding a bowl meant for dogs. "Here is dinner," she said, as if our pain meant nothing. We spent one cold night in the shed before my aunt called me the next morning. "A letter has come," she said. "The last son of the Okafor family wishes to marry you." I begged her. I told her I was not ready, that the man was feared in the village, that I wanted to go to school. She did not listen. Instead, she made me a promise. If I accepted the marriage, my sister Elena would be taken to the best hospital and receive the treatment she desperately needed. I knew she was being paid handsomely for the marriage, yet, for Elena, I said yes. That same morning I sat beside my sister, held her hand, prayed softly, and tried to reassure her that everything would be alright, even though my heart was breaking. 2 weeks later, my cousin Tosin arrived at my aunt's house. As I watched my aunt and Tosin laugh together, I felt like a stranger standing inside someone else's home. That evening, as I served dinner, I overheard them discussing the marriage. When Tosin learned that Philip Okafor was the wealthiest man in the village, she declared she would marry him instead of me. I reminded my aunt of her promise about Elena's treatment, but before I could finish speaking, Tosin insulted me, and my aunt struck me and pushed me out of the house. The next day they called me back, not to apologize, but to inform me of their new decision. Tosin would marry Philip Okafor, and I would instead marry Charles Ephraim, a man people called cursed because he was blind. I agreed again, only asking that my sister be cared for. I packed my small bag, returned to Elena, held her hand once more, prayed over her, and tried to smile through my tears. As the chauffeur drove me away, my aunt and cousin watched with satisfied smiles, believing they had finally removed the burden from their lives. As the car carried me away toward a life I did not choose, another arrived behind us, Philip Okafor and his father, Chief Osinekem Okafor. And before the dust even settled, Deo was the bride they took in my place. When I arrived at Charles Ephraim's home, I was stunned. The vast land, the grand mansion, nothing looked like the life of a cursed man. His grandmother welcomed me warmly, holding me as though she had known me forever. That evening, while Charles and his grandmother were having dinner, I quietly stepped into the dining room. Charles immediately sensed another presence. His grandmother gently held his hand and softly told him, "It is your wife." The words changed the air instantly. Charles stiffened. When he realized he had been given a wife without his consent, anger rose in his voice. He stood up abruptly, refused the marriage he never chose, and walked away from the table without another word. His grandmother turned to me gently and reassured me that everything would be all right. She told me I should begin sleeping in the same room with him so that, with time, things would become easier between us. I sat there in disbelief, wondering quietly what kind of life I had just entered. That night, I walked into the room carefully. Charles sensed someone's presence and shifted to one side of the bed, unsure but silent. We lay down in uneasy quiet. The next morning, I was in the bathroom when Charles entered without realizing someone else was there. I screamed in shock, and he immediately stepped back, apologizing over and over. "I'm sorry. I forgot someone else is here. I can't see anything, I promise." Later, he apologized again in the room, and for the first time, I smiled. Days passed. Slowly, kindness replaced the tension between us. One morning, as I prayed beside him while he slept, he opened his eyes, and he could see. His joy was overwhelming. When he looked at me for the first time, I saw wonder in his eyes. In that moment, something gentle began between us. Yet my heart was not at peace. During lunch one afternoon, he noticed my silence and asked what troubled me. I told him about Elena, about my fear that my aunt might have broken her promise. Without hesitation, he said, "Tomorrow, we will go and see her." What we found shattered me. Elena lay weak and neglected, far from the treatment that had been promised. I could barely stand from the shock, and Charles held me so I would not fall. My aunt, instead of showing remorse, blamed me for every tragedy in her life, accusing me of bringing misfortune upon the family. I could only stare at her in disbelief, wondering how someone could still choose cruelty after everything. Charles brought Elena with us to the mansion and called doctors to care for her. When the doctor finally assured us that she would recover, tears filled my eyes. Charles gently held my face, kissed me softly, and reminded me that the worst was finally behind us. Now I sit beside my sister, watching her grow stronger each day. I hold her hand and whisper gently,
"You're safe. We survived."
Don't forget to like and subscribe.